This is 8 things that you should know before you buy the Canon R10. Now, some of these are good things, some of these are bad things, and this list is really in no particular order. So after you watch this video, definitely do your own research and look into the things that are important to you when buying a camera. But I'm making this video just as an outline and to give you some information about this camera before you decide to purchase it. I don't want to waste your time, I'm just going to get right into it, but if you do enjoy this video and if it helps you out in any way, shape, or form, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. Alright, so first things first, the 4K mode in this camera is actually oversampled from 6K. Now this is only when you record 4K between 24 and 30 frames per second. So if you jump up to 4K 60 FPS, it's not actually oversampled from 6K, it's just standard 4K. So essentially this camera is recording 6K footage, but before it even writes it to the SD card, it kind of just downsamples it and compresses it into a 4K file, and then it writes it to the SD card in 4K footage. So you're not actually getting a 6K file out of this camera, but it's all the resolution and all the data from a 6K image, which long story short is just going to give you a much sharper 4K image out of this camera, which is awesome. Next up, this camera actually has dual pixel autofocus too. So Canon's dual pixel autofocus is one of the best autofocus systems out there. It's been around for many years now, and it's essentially known as one of, if not the best autofocus systems. But they recently upgraded to dual pixel autofocus 2 with a lot of their higher end cameras like the R5, R6, and R3. But Canon also put this new system in the R10 as well. And so this is awesome because dual pixel autofocus 2 really just improves upon all the already amazing things from dual pixel autofocus 1. And the fact that they're putting it in their budget cameras like the R10 is really awesome. Next up, this camera actually doesn't have a 30-minute record limit. So this 30-minute record time limit has been around pretty much since the start of DSLR videography, and it actually doesn't even have to do with the capabilities of cameras for the most part. It was actually some sort of import law to where cameras that weren't specifically dedicated to video production, you know, like cinema cameras and camcorders and stuff, couldn't actually record past 30 minutes at a time. I don't know the exact reason, but it was some law that had to be done by all camera manufacturers, which is why for many years, most DSLR and mirrorless cameras couldn't record for more than 30 minutes at a time. But recently, I don't know if this law was just taken out of effect or something, but DSLRs and mirrorless cameras are starting to be able to record past that 30-minute time limit, and the Canon R10 is no exception. There's no recording limit, so you can pretty much record however long you want to. However, speaking of that, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is overheating. So the Canon R10 does have some overheating issues, but for my testing, I recorded in an indoor environment in this room right here, which is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit with no direct sunlight. It's indoors like I just said, and I recorded for just about an hour straight before this camera overheated. And I've also seen in some other reviews that's right around that hour mark. So even though the 30-minute record limit is gone, you can still only record for up to about an hour before it's going to overheat. But if you're outdoors in direct sunlight or in higher temperature areas, then it's going to overheat even faster. There are just so many factors that can affect overheating that it's really more of a specific situation based on what you're using the camera for. But it's safe to say in normal environments, you can get close to an hour of recording before overheating. Alright, next up, I talked about the 4K 60 frame per second mode earlier and how that isn't actually oversampled from 6K, but also the 4K 60 frame per second mode has an additional crop on it. So you can kind of see the comparison right here between 4K 30 and 4K 60. It's going to crop in substantially more on your image, so if you do have a wide angle lens, it's going to be much less wide and you're going to kind of have to work around that. And same goes with any focal length, of course, but it's just going to crop in additionally on your footage, so something to think about if you do want to record 4K 60 frame per second footage. Next up, this camera has a USB-C port on the side of the camera, which is great for using as a webcam and just for, you know, transferring photos and videos and stuff like that. However, this can also support power delivery for charging the camera. So if you're on the go traveling and you don't have the room to pack a dedicated charger, if you just bring a power delivery brick and a USB-C cable, you can just charge the battery in this camera through the USB-C port. Next up, this camera typically records in 8-bit 420. So because of this, you're going to kind of struggle with color grading. It doesn't have super high bit depth. It also doesn't record in log. So if you use the Canon R10 for professional videography and stuff like that, you really won't have a high amount of flexibility with color grading and pushing colors around in post. However, if you record in the HDR PQ mode, you can actually record in 10-bit, which is going to give you that flexibility for editing. However, it does have some drawbacks. So it's safe to say that this camera just records in 8-bit 420, which really sucks, and in 2023, I really would have liked to see 10-bit as a standard option in this camera, but sadly, it's not. Now last but not least, Canon actually doesn't support third-party lenses with the Canon RF mount. So essentially what this means is all the lenses that you can buy for this camera that have the native RF mount have to be directly from Canon. They don't allow third-party manufacturers like Sigma and Tamron to create lenses for the RF mount. Now there are some companies that do, but it's specifically with autofocus lenses with electronic contacts. So you can't buy lenses with autofocus and automatic aperture and any sort of electronic contact with this from a third-party manufacturer. Now the reason this sucks is because if you want a nice, good quality photography lens with autofocus, you have to buy lenses directly from Canon. Now they do have a pretty decent sized list of lenses now, but for the RF mount, they're very, very expensive for the most part. They're starting to release more budget options, but most of the lenses for the RF mount are in the thousands and thousands of dollar price point, which of course, most people buying a budget Canon camera like the R10 aren't gonna have the budget for these ridiculously expensive $2,000 to $3,000 lenses. But then if you go to the budget price point, there's only a couple options available. But if you go to a different manufacturer like Sony's lenses are pretty expensive. They do have budget options, but for the most part, Sony lenses are really expensive. But they allow all these third-party manufacturers to create lenses. And so you have lenses in like the $100 price points that have autofocus, really good autofocus for Sony cameras because of third-party manufacturers that can create cheaper lenses. So I really don't know why Canon doesn't allow third-party manufacturers to make lenses. It seems like they're just money hungry. It really sucks. It's really annoying. And I really just hope they eventually open this up, because if we could get third-party autofocus lenses for the RF mount, it would make these cameras so much better for budget content creators and photographers just by having more lens options. But either way, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you got any sort of value out of this video, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. But that's it for me. I'll see you in the next video.